Hey guys, welcome back to Black Otaku Network. So there's something I want to discuss with you guys real quick. Now, whenever you hear the word remake, a lot of times it gets a lot of disdain and hate, like, oh, you're ruining the original. But honestly speaking, sometimes they actually come out pretty good. And the two I want to talk about right now is the new Ducktales and Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So let's check it out. So there's DuckTales, an old Disney show from 1987 that ran up till like almost the early 90s, which followed Scrooge McDuck and his nephews and his whole entire family adventuring all over the world, trying to become the richest duck in the world. And then you have TMNT, which is essentially 4 mutated turtles come together and learn ninjutsu under their rat master. I know I'm kind of simplifying a lot of things, but 9 out of 10 you already know this already. Now, DuckTales only had like one run, but that run was for a very long time, while TMNT had comics, show after show after show and after show. And honestly, only like a few of them were bad, but most of them were pretty good, and this one is like in the good category for quite a number of reasons why. Now I know, once again, a lot of people who are watching this think that, remakes tarnish the original, but these two remakes actually build upon what the original was all about. So let's start with DuckTales. The original focused a lot more on the adventure aspect than anything else, while this new one actually, has great adventures, but it focuses a lot more on the characters themselves. Like, we found out a lot more about Scrooge McDuck, and we found out a lot more about the triplets, because like in the original, they were all just the same kid, just with different color palette. While in this one, we actually have very different personalities. And one of the big things they've done is like solve the issue of where are these boys' parents? Well, we saw half the issue. Part of the issue. Like, somewhere in the middle, we actually find out where one of their parents are. So, that's always a good thing to know because, original, just with Donald, and no one answered what happened. Along with character development, we also have Granny and Webby. In the original ones, they were, sorry to say, glorified damsel in distresses. Like, their main thing was like, oh, these boys are too rambunctious, and then get kidnapped. And Webby, I want to be part of the boys, and gets kidnapped. Like, that was literally all they did throughout the entire series. Now, in this one, we have Granny, who's this badass secret agent who, if anybody even steps up to McDuck Manor, they gonna get these hands. And then we have Webby, who is, while some people call her a glorified Mabel, I still see her as like this great character that's like trying to be just like her grandmother, who is this badass. And she's following her footsteps while also being a giant fangirl of the McDuck family. So I think it makes her character a lot more interesting than just like, I want to be part of the boys, to I want to discover the secrets of the McDuck family and protect them just like my grandmother does. Now then you have Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Try saying that fast 5 times in a row. With the way they handle things, it's a lot different from what we've seen before. Like, the original TMNT has always been dark and brooding. We gotta defeat the Foot Clan and save the world. This one, it actually follows exactly what the show's name is, which is teenagers. They literally act like teenagers, like they should. Like, they just go out and have fun and happen to get into a lot of trouble. Like, if you know any teenagers, you know they're not actually smart. Well, they're not that smart. And they tend to get in a lot of trouble, and that's what exactly these guys do. And the sibling love is really there. Like, yes, they get on each other's nerves all the time, like any other sibling would. But instead of going through a whole bunch of adult themes, like, maybe we gotta talk it out or do something like this, teenagers a lot of times just forget the problem and just keep doing what they're doing anyway. And especially if you're siblings, like, siblings together, all of them, especially like 4 at one time, get crazy, but still love each other and still deal with the problems, but they don't really focus on it. And that's what makes this one so much better. Like, instead of dealing with all these dark themes, I kind of want to just see the brothers be brothers and just happen to get into hijinks as things go on. Now, when it comes to any type of remake, there's always going to be the nostalgia factor. And TMNT and Ducktales actually tap on both of those, but in two different ways. Like, Ducktales brings in old voices for new characters, and then they also do new interpretations of older characters. Like, we saw Granny and Webby change, but then there's also my favorite character, Flitheart Glomgold. He has changed significantly from what he was before. Before, he was nothing but just like a palette swap of Scrooge McDuck. Now he's this crazy South African man whose entire life is dedicated to vengeance on Scrooge McDuck. Comes to TMNT, they do it a little bit differently. Like, the previous iteration of the show was on less than a year ago, so we really can't touch on a lot of nostalgia for that one. So they pull from the older generations. Like, there's actually an episode that came out where the brothers are making a giant plan. And I kid you not, on the board are pictures of all the different iterations of the Turtles, from the one from last year, from the one from the 80s, from the one from the 2000s. They're all there, just there to make you feel about them. And then they also introduce, older characters that we've seen 100 times already, but make them differently. Like Baxter Stockman is no longer this adult, super genius man. He's now a genius 12-year-old child who wants to be a YouTuber. Which, some people see that's kind of like too silly. I feel like you're giving it a new, fresh coat of paint, because you really can't keep doing the exact same thing over and over again. Especially since the series, the previous one, was on like last year. You can't just redo it again, you have to make it different. And this way, they make it different and fun. So, when it comes to these remakes, you really have to think about what they're doing. You can't do the exact same thing over and over again. Like, a lot of people want the old-fashioned TMNT, but the TMNT that we've known all this time has always been really dark, except for the 80s version. But everyone loves the 80s version, so why not like this one, which focuses more on fun and jokes and them being brothers and not worry about world-ending type of things that are happening. And with DuckTales, they bring a lot more fun to the adventures. The adventures at first were just more about how is the McDuck family going to get this thing. Now is how McDuck's family are going to get this thing and make me laugh my butt off while they're doing it. I feel that that actually makes the show a lot more enjoyable. You can't do the exact same thing over and over again. And with what they're doing right now, I feel like it works really, really well. And I hope to see a lot more seasons of both shows. This is the Black Otaku Network, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.